My fiancé left me at the altar. But the doctor ran into the church. 3 minutes later, the smell hit me first, antiseptic, sharp and clinical. Completely wrong for a church that still had lily perfume hanging in the air from the bouquets. I was standing at the altar in a dress that cost more than my first car, mascara already running, when Dr. Patel came barreling through the double doors with his white coat flapping, shouting my name. Not Daniel's name. Mine. And the entire congregation, 240 people who had just watched my fiancé walk out 40 seconds earlier without a word, turned to look at me like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Let me back up. I'm Renee. I'm 34. And I grew up the responsible one in a family that specialized in chaos. My older brother Marcus could total a car, get fired from 3 jobs in a year, and somehow my parents would frame it as, he's just figuring himself out. I got a 3.9 GPA in nursing school and worked double shifts at St. Vincent's for 6 years. And my mom's response was usually some version of, must be nice having it all figured out. There's a particular kind of loneliness in being the kid nobody worries about. You become furniture. Useful furniture, but furniture. I met Daniel at a coffee shop near the hospital, the kind with exposed brick and oat milk latte that cost $6. And he was charming in that easy way some men remembered your order, asked good follow-up questions, laughed at the right moments. We dated for 2 years. He worked in commercial real estate, or said he did, and there were always reasons his finances were in transition. I covered dinners. I covered the deposit on our apartment. When his car got repossessed, not stolen, though that's the story he told his friends, I helped him get a used Honda without telling my parents, because I knew exactly what they'd say. The first real red flag I ignored was small. About 8 months before the wedding, I found out he'd taken out a credit card in my name. He said it was an emergency, that he'd pay it back, that he didn't want to burden me with asking $1,100 on a card I never signed for. I should have walked then. Instead, I called the credit card company, disputed it, fixed it quietly, and told myself it was a one-time lapse in judgment from someone under stress. The second thing happened 3 months later. His mother, Carol, a woman who wore so much Chanel No. 5, you could smell her 2 rooms away, sat me down and told me that, for the family's sake, it would be best if my name wasn't on the deed to the house Daniel and I were supposedly buying together. The house I'd put $18,000 toward. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like protecting Daniel's financial privacy was somehow protecting me too. I remember nodding along, smiling, while internally doing math about how I'd just signed away a chunk of my savings for nothing. The third thing, the one that should have been the final straw, came 2 weeks before the wedding. I overheard Daniel on the phone with someone, laughing, saying, "Yeah, once the wedding's done and the joint accounts are set up, things will be a lot easier." I walked in and asked what that meant. He said it was about combining bills, simplifying things, normal married couple stuff. I wanted to believe him so badly that I let it go. That's the thing about wanting something to be true. It makes you very good at lying to yourself. The big task came 4 days before the wedding. Daniel sat me down very seriously and said his business account had been frozen to his business clerical error with the bank. And he needed $8,000 by Friday, or he'd lose a deal that was supposed to fund our honeymoon. He didn't ask me to give it to him outright. He asked me to transfer it into a joint account, so it's both our money technically, and he'd pay it back the second the deal closed. I said no, not dramatically. I didn't yell. I just looked at him across the kitchen table, and I said, "No, I'm not doing that." He blinked like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Then he tried the wounded routine. How could I not trust him? Didn't I believe in us? Was I really going to let pride get in the way of our future? I let him talk. I drank my coffee, and when he finished, I said it again, quieter, no. He didn't bring it up again. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. On the morning of the wedding, while I was getting my hair done, my cousin Priya, who'd flown in from Chicago, and has never in her life been able to keep her mouth shut, which I love about her, mentioned, almost as a joke, that she'd seen Daniel's mother handing him an envelope in the parking lot. Looked thick, she said, laughing. Probably cash for the honeymoon, how sweet. I didn't think much of it. I had a wedding to get through. The ceremony started 20 minutes late because the florist messed up the boutonnieres, which in hindsight feels almost funny, like the universe was stalling for time. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, past faces I'd known my whole life, past Marcus, who was already crying, which surprised me because Marcus doesn't cry at anything. Daniel stood at the altar looking pale. I thought it was nerves. The officiant got through maybe 4 sentences of the opening before Daniel raised his hand and said, "I can't do this." Just like that. No explanation. He looked at me, said, "I'm sorry, Renee, I really am," and walked, not running, walked, almost casually down the side aisle and out a side door. The room went dead silent, except for someone's phone going off with a generic marimba ringtone, which is a detail I will never, ever forget, because it was so absurd against the horror of the moment. I stood there. I didn't cry yet. I was in that strange, numb space where your body hasn't caught up to what your brain just registered. And that's when the doors at the back of the church burst open, and Dr. Patel, my coworker, a cardiologist I'd worked alongside for 4 years, came rushing in, still in calling my name like there was an emergency. For one absurd second, I thought something had happened to a patient, and they'd somehow tracked me down on my wedding day. He reached me, grabbed my arm, and said, breathless, "Renee, thank God. I need to talk to you. It's about the loan." The loan. I had no idea what he was talking about. I told him so in front of everyone. In my wedding dress, mascara started to streak. And Dr. Patel, blessed him, he had no idea what he'd just walked into, pulled out his phone, and showed me a screenshot. It was an email from our hospital's credit union. A personal loan application, $42,000, using my employee ID and my social security number, co-signed with a name I recognized instantly, Daniel. He'd forged my signature on a loan application 3 weeks ago. Dr. Patel had only caught it because he was on the credit union's fraud alert committee as a volunteer board member, genuinely one of those random small world things, and my name had flagged because the loan officer recognized me from the hospital and thought something looked off about the signature. He'd been trying to reach me for 2 days. My phone had been off for wedding prep. So here's the wait, what? Moment number 1. Daniel hadn't asked me for $8,000 because he needed it. He'd already tried to get $42,000 in my name without asking at all. The $8,000 request was probably a smaller, faster grab, in case the bigger loan didn't come through in time. Wait, what? Moment number 2 came about 10 minutes later, when my dad, red-faced, furious, the calmest I'd ever seen him while shaking, walked back from the parking lot holding something. He'd gone after Daniel, not to fight him, just to ask what the hell was going on, and found Daniel's car already gone. But on the ground near where it had been parked was an envelope. The one Priya had seen Carol hand him that morning. It had fallen, or been dropped, or maybe Daniel had thrown it in disgust. We never fully figured that part out. Inside was $9,000 in cash, and a handwritten note from Carol that said, "This should cover it if things don't go through with R. Don't let this ruin your chance with Brielle's family. They're worth 10 times what she is." Brielle. I didn't know who Brielle was yet. That came later. I'm not going to pretend the next few hours were composed or graceful. I sat in the bridal suite still in my dress, because nobody thought to help me out of it. And I cried in a way I hadn't cried since I was a kid, loud, ugly, the kind of crying that makes your ribs hurt. My mother, of all people, sat next to me and didn't say a single thing about Marcus or comparisons or how I should have seen it coming. She just held my hand. Sometimes people surprise you. The forgery was the thing that changed everything legally. Identity theft and fraudulent loan applications, using a healthcare employee's credentials, isn't a lover's quarrel, work it out, situation. It's a federal matter once it touches a federally insured credit union. Dr. Patel walked me through it gently, in the hallway outside the bridal suite. Still in his scrub top, with a coffee stain on the pocket, telling me I needed to file a police report that same day, before evidence could be altered, or accounts could be drained. So that's what I did. Still in my wedding dress in the back of my dad's truck, I went to the police station and filed a report. The officer taking my statement kept apologizing for ruining my day, which struck me as funny, because my day had been ruined about 3 hours earlier by someone else entirely. Over the following weeks, the picture filled in. Brielle turned out to be the daughter of a man who owned 4 car dealerships across 2 counties. Daniel had been seeing her for months, parallel to our engagement, and her family had money, in a way mine never would. Carol's note made it clear this had been planned, not impulsive. Daniel was supposed to marry me, use my credit and my hospital benefits to stabilize his finances. He had almost $60,000 in gambling debt, which came out during the fraud investigation, and quietly transitioned to Brielle once things were settled. The forged loan was meant to clear his debts before the wedding, so he'd look financially stable to Brielle's family, who were apparently doing their own background checks. The investigation took about 5 months. Not glamorous, not cinematic, it was emailed back and forth with the credit union's fraud department. A deposition where I had to sit across a table from a lawyer who kept sliding me water I didn't ask for, and one deeply uncomfortable afternoon identifying my own signature versus the forged one for a handwriting expert. Daniel was charged with identity theft and bank fraud. He took a plea deal 18 months, of which he served about 11, plus restitution, which I'm still receiving in small monthly payments that feel less like compensation and more like a recurring reminder. The courtroom moment that stuck with me wasn't dramatic. It was small. During sentencing, the judge, an older woman with reading glasses on a beaded chain, the kind your aunt wears, looked at Daniel and said, almost tiredly, "You had someone who was by every account loyal to you, and your plan required forging her name to leave her better off financially while you left her standing at an altar. That's not impulsive. That's a business plan." Daniel didn't say anything. He just stared at the table. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and a little sad in a way I didn't expect. Carol sent me one email afterward, not an apology request, that I not speak negatively about the family, since it could affect Daniel's appeal. I didn't respond. Some bridges you don't burn on purpose. They just stop being bridges. It's been almost 2 years now. I left St. Vincent's eventually because of any of this. Just timing, and I work at a smaller clinic now, closer to my apartment, the one I bought myself, with my name only on the deed this time, which still gives me a small private satisfaction every time I see the paperwork in my filing cabinet. I'm dating someone, slowly, a guy named Theo, who fixes bikes for a living, and once spent 40 minutes explaining derailleur gears to me with genuine enthusiasm, and I let him, because it's nice to be around someone who isn't performing anything. Last month I ran into Dr. Patel in the break room and he asked, half joking, if I'd framed that screenshot yet. I told him no, but I did keep the marimba ringtone as my own text tone now. He laughed, said that was either very healthy or very unhinged. And honestly, I think it's a little of both. If something like this has happened to you, if you've ever had someone on a broke trusted try to quietly cash you out while smiling to your face, I'd genuinely like to hear it in the comments. And if this keeps you here till the end, go ahead and subscribe, because there are more stories like this coming. And trust me, this wasn't even the strangest one I know.